Hey gang, welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicky V. I'm a studio musician and producer here in Nashville. So I play guitar on people's records, and I get on YouTube occasionally and do different guitar rants, and I take you behind the scenes on tracking sessions, do all kinds of stuff. I've been doing, I just kind of finished up a series on guitar setups. I did Strats, Les Pauls, and Tellys. And you guys seem to really enjoy that. But if you subscribe to the channel and if you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe if you haven't already. I switch it up all the time. I try to do different things. It's something for everybody. And I released a course a few weeks ago. It's kind of geared towards intermediate players to advanced intermediate. And a lot of you guys are wondering if it was going to be over your head or under your head or kind of finding that sweet spot there. So I thought I would do a series of videos that are kind of just geared towards filling in any gaps in your playing to kind of build up to work towards those courses. One of the things that I see come up quite a bit is I'll be like, hey, play a F sharp on the G string. And it takes them a minute to find that. And that really shouldn't be the case. And so I know this is something that there's a million YouTube videos out there about, you know, how to learn the notes on the guitar fretboard. And there's a few different ways of going about it. And the one thing I haven't seen is a way to actually practice them, because it's one thing to be able to identify them, which is what most people do. It's like, okay, they can see this G and they know these octave shapes across the neck, right? The typical framework that we all know and you've seen a bunch of videos on. And you're like, okay, great. So if I tell you, hey, find me a G note on the B string, you guys can kind of use that template and take a second and find it. Well, in the heat of battle, whenever you're improvising or on stage or on a session or any musical context, you don't have time to calculate. You really have to develop that recall memory to where it's just automatic. So if I say, play me an F sharp on all 6 strings, you should be able to go and pull all those out like that without having to sit there and think, okay, where's the, 1 down, 5 back, or 2 down, 2 up, or anything like that. You don't have time to calculate in the real world. And so there's an exercise that really drills this into our muscle memory in our mind and helps us really dial in on those super quick. And I haven't seen it taught a lot on here at all. I actually learned it in college at the Musicians Institute out in LA. But like I said, everybody shows you the framework, but they don't tell you how to practice it. So I want to give you guys the exercise. Before we do that, just to catch everybody up to speed, this is definitely something that's geared towards more of the beginner, intermediate players. So I promise, guys, I will be covering more stuff that's towards the advanced intermediate and some advanced things as well. I was thinking about doing a few lessons on here just for free to give you guys. And this is kind of like, you need to learn your alphabet before you can write a book, right? So we got to learn this stuff. So I know this is going to be a little bit too basic for some people. So if you already kind of know how to figure out the notes on the fretboard, skip ahead. I'll put a little chapter marker on there to where I'll just put exercise on it or something like that to where you can actually learn the exercise. But if you aren't sure how to figure all the notes in the neck, watch this part of the video. So we're going to start with our open E string down here. Easy peasy, right? Now the next one we have to just cold memorize these notes on the E string and A string, because that's how we're going to calculate the rest of the notes across the fretboard. And this might seem like a daunting task. I can promise you it is totally doable. I've taught this to a ton of people and it really works. So we have our open E string. Then we just have to memorize that this is a G note on 3. So G on 3, it rhymes. Just like your G chord, right? That lowest note. Go up 2 frets and you have an A note. And we go up 3 frets from there to our 8th fret, and that gives us a C. Then we go up 2 more frets and it gives us a D. So what we just did right there is we developed our home bases, okay? And then from those home bases, we're going to calculate our sharps and flats and a few other things. So quick little recap on that. You just have to straight up memorize these. E, G, A, C, D. You got to get those down and then kind of quiz yourself on, okay, D, go different orders, right? A, C, G, just jump around. E, D, C, G, A, E, D, G, C, A. Just jump around like that. And if you notice on a piano, you have 2 white keys that are beside each other. Those 2 white keys that are beside each other are E and F. So F is going to be a half step above E, right there. And the other 2 are C and B. And B is going to be a half step below C. C, B. Well, now we just developed a C major scale all the way across our low E string. Starting on the 3rd, we have E, F, G, A, B because it's a half step below C, C, D, back to E where we started. And everything repeats past there, right? So this would be G and that'd be A. Then go backwards. E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E. And then jump around. E, G, F, B, D, A, C, G, E. We're just drilling them into our muscle memory. That's all we're doing right there. Now, once you have that low E string down, like I just played it right there, there's actually a way to calculate different octave shapes across the fretboard, because there's a relationship between the E string and the D string, the D string and the B string, and then you have your high E string, which is the same as your low E string. So if this is G, that's obviously G. If that's C, that's C. Now, the octave shape we have to learn, I'm going to call it 2 down and 2 up. It means you go 2 strings down and 2 frets up. So you have a G here, you have a G right there on your D string. So that's going to be on your 5th fret D string and 3rd fret low E string. Those two. Now from the D string, there's actually a relationship to the B string. So if you play that G we just figured out, because we have 2 down, 2 up, which this octave moves around, those are C's, for example. Those are A's, those are F's. Back to G. We'll just use G as the example for now. We have G and G on the E string and D string. Now we can calculate the B string based on the G we found on the D string. And we'll call this one 2 strings down, 3 frets up. So you have 2 down, 2 up, and then 2 down, 3 up. And that gives you your G octave shapes on the E, D, and B string, because there's a relationship there. So if I told you, find me an A note on the D string, what you could do is you could think, okay, well, there's a relationship between the E and the D string. So we have A note right here because we memorized that earlier. So we have A on the E string, 2 down, 2 up. There's our A on the D string. We located it. And guess what? If we go to 2 down, 3 up, we can find it on the B string as well. There's our octave shape. Those are all A notes. So if I said, find me a D note on the B string, you could say, okay, well, I can start at my low E string, use that to figure out on my D string, and then use the D string to figure out my B string. So you kind of reverse engineer it. You have to go, okay, well, there's a D on my low E string. 2 down, 2 up, 12th fret, also an octave, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat. Then we have 2 down, 3 up from here. And that gives us the D note on the B string. So you have to drop it down an octave, you have it there as well, which is 2 down, 3 up from that open D string. So at this point, you can figure out, you don't have it down yet to where it's obviously quick muscle memory. We're going to get to that later in the exercise. But you can calculate or figure out the notes on your E, D, B, and high E string. And that's pretty cool because we're only missing 2 strings. So now we need to repeat the same process we did for the low E string on the A string. And that's going to give us an anchor point, which we can use to calculate the remaining notes on the fretboard. So we have open A string, right? The next one up is going to be C, just like we did in our low E string. It's 3 frets higher than that. So there's the C note, just like your C chord right here, right? You go up 2 frets and you have a D. Okay, you go up 2 frets from D and you have E, which looks just like this. If I go A, C, D, E, that same interval spacing is A, C, D, E. We're just moving it down to the A string. So after E, we have G. Let's show up to that home base. And if you need to check yourself, listen, those sound like octaves? Yeah, they're both Gs. So at this point, we have A, C, D, E, and G. So now back to the white notes on the piano, right? The 2 that are beside each other. We have C and B a half step below C. Then if we have E, we have F a half step above E. Now we put that all together. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, back to A where we started, then it repeats. So now we got to drill it in our head, right? So jump around, play them all. C, E, G, F, C, B, E, A, G, C, E, D, G, B, C. Just kind of do that, and it's going to help you kind of get those drilled into your head a little easier. So now that we have the A string down, we can calculate some more octave shapes. So the same relationship that we have between the E string and D string applies to the A string and G string. So if this is a C note on our A string, we can go 2 down and 2 up, and that gives us a C note on the G string. And guess what? We can do that same relationship between the G string and high E string as we have between the D string and B string, which is 2 down, 3 up. So if this is your octave shape for C, and you put your pointer finger where you played that C right there on your 5th fret G string, 2 down, 3 up, that gives you your octave shape for the C. So you have 2 Cs and 2 Cs. And if you wanted to figure out an E note, for example, on the G string, well, now you know that this is an E on your A string, so there's a relationship there, 2 down, 2 up. You can calculate that. You can figure out where it's at. So that's an E note on your G string. So at this point, we have all of the notes in C major figured out across the fretboard, right? Because there's no sharps and flats. So as a lot of you know, flats are that way, sharps are that way. So if this is G, this is G flat. If this is G, this is G sharp. If you're a guitar player, I know a lot of you music nerds are like, no, it's A flat. So if this is A flat. This is B, B flat. This is C, C sharp, or D flat. This one here, E flat. Okay, so if we just go chromatically up the whole string, we're gonna have E, F, F sharp, G, we'll call it A flat to keep some of you guys happy, A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E. And this applies anywhere. So if this is a G note on our B string, it's G flat. If this is D, then that's D flat or C sharp. If this is E, it's E flat. So I think that should be clicking with you guys by now. So at this point, what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to find a random note on a random string. So let's think of a random one. A flat on the D string. So the thought process going into this needs to be, this is an A, so that's A flat on my low E string, and there's a relationship here, so there's my octave. There's an A flat on the D string. It's pretty quick calculating it like that. If I need to find a G sharp on the B string, well, I know that the E string, D string, and B string have a relationship. So I can go, okay, G, G sharp, and G sharp, 2 down, 3 up. There's my G sharp or A flat on the B string. So this is how you can find any note on the fretboard, right? This is very doable. I know it seems like a lot, but just trust me, if you go through this, I think it's going to start clicking with you guys. So now the next question is, how do we practice this? And this is where every video stops, right? They don't tell you how to practice, and I'm sure there's probably like a random note generator or something online. Somebody figure that out, put it in the comments. But there's an exercise we learned in college out in LA where you basically take the cycle of fifths and then you locate all 12 notes on all 6 strings as one complete exercise. And so without going down the rabbit hole of cycle of fifths and voice leading and all that, just quickly on guitar, what the cycle of fifths looks like, the pattern on the E string and A string looks like this. Just whole steps down. And what that does, if you notice, that was 12 notes. So this is a way of making sure we don't leave out a note, essentially. So if we have E, A, D, G, C, F, B flat, E flat, G sharp, C sharp, F sharp, B, then it starts back at E. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It starts back at 1. So that is going to be our system for making sure we do not forget a note as we work through this exercise. So our first note in the cycle of fifths, starting from E, doing this pattern, right? Our first note is E. So we have to find an E note on all 6 strings. So there it is on our low E string. There it is on our A string. That was one of our home bases we memorized earlier. Then you have one right here, which is on your 2nd fret D string. And why is that? Because you have 2 down, 2 up from the open E string. And then you have one here on your G string, which is 2 down, 2 up from this home bass on our A string. And then you have your E right here, which some of you know because you tune your guitar like this probably. So we have an E on our 5th fret B string, which is 2 down, 3 up from right here. That other E we just figured out. Then you have obviously your 12th fret high E string or the open, whichever one. And then you descend them. So E, 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 E. So to start out, one more time, find all the E's. I'm playing all the E's on all 6 strings, ascending and descending. Now what I do is I go back to my cycle of fifths, this pattern right here, right? And my next note after E is A. So I have to find all the A notes now. So home bass, automatic, right? Then we have the 12th fret, which is the octave of our open A string. Then we have an A note right here in our D string because our octave shape. Then we have an A note right here because 2 down, 2 up from the open A. And then we have to find an A on our B string, so we can use 2 down, 2 up, and then 2 down, 3 up. There's the A note. And then we go here, and we have it on our 5th fret, because it's like our low E string, right? They're both E strings. Then we descend. A, and A. Now we go back to our cycle of fifths pattern. E, A, D is our next note. So we have to find all the D's now. So we have D, 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 D. And to slow that down, we have octave shapes here, right? And here. So we have a D note there, a D note home bass on our A string. Then we have the open D string or the 12th fret. And then from this D, we can calculate our G string. There's the D. Now from the open D string, we have it right here on our 3rd fret. And then we have this D. Then you descend it. Then back to your cycle of fifths again, right? We're gonna do this for all 12 notes. You guys get the idea. Once we get the idea, I think I'll skip it. I'm gonna do a couple more though, just to make sure you're getting it. So we have E, A, D. Now G is our next note in the cycle of fifths. So we find all the G's. There's a G, home bass G, 2 down, 2 up. So there's a G on the D string, open G string or 12th fret, whichever one you want. 8th fret, which is based off this, like we figured out earlier. Then you have your 3rd fret, G and 3, right? Then back to your cycle of fifths. C is our next note, so we find all the C's. Same process, same relationships. Then back to the cycle of fifths. And all the F's, right? And so the pattern keeps going all the way down until you get back to E. And I'm going to save you guys the time. But here's the best way to practice this. What you do is you put on a metronome. So I'm just going to put it on, let's see if 75 works good. Okay, 75 BPM. And you try to do it in time. So you start off on E, right? We're doing the cycle of fifths. But when it goes to the A note next, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to try to keep going. So you have to think ahead. You have to think back to your cycle of fifths or envision this pattern as you're playing the other notes. So you have E, 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 E. I'm thinking about A now. There's A. Okay, I'm focusing on my A's. Think about my next cycle. It's going to be D. D. Playing all my D's. Think about what's next. It's going to be G. You keep going. Next. C's, right? Think back to your cycle. What's next? F. You start to see these patterns and kind of relationships develop a little stronger now, right? So keep doing that all the way till you get down to E. Go through that exercise, and if you do this for a couple months, I guarantee you will be able to pull out these notes out of thin air. And if I say, play me an F sharp on the B string, there it is. Play me an A note on the G string. So they're just completely automatic, right? And this helps as you obviously want to learn anything on this instrument. It's great to have this vocabulary. So the next step to the exercise is you can always speed the metronome up, right? Or just try to do it quick. I'll do it with metronome, as a teacher should, right? Okay, here we go. Put it on 110. So those are my E's. See if you can do it faster than that. So there's no winning with this exercise. You can just keep speeding it up until you can't do it. So I'll put it on like 150. Or you can use a subdivision too, but like 150. So you can keep pushing yourself to go as fast as you can. Now A's. D's. And just keep going. The next step to make it a little harder, what you can do is you can ascend through a cycle of fifths and then switch when you descend. So it'd look like this. It'd be like E's. Now switch to A. You descend A's. Now ascend D's. Descend G's. You get the idea. And you don't have to do it in that order when you're first learning this. If you're like, okay, so if this is a little intimidating, set a goal for yourself. Be like, okay, I'm going to find all the F's today, right? part of my practice, I'm going to find all the Fs. You find every single F. You sit there and you calculate them out. And this is not easy to do this. This is a difficult exercise, but most things worth having, you have to go through a certain degree of work to kind of get that positive outcome. And this is the best exercise I know to drill these notes into your head. The only other way I know, I've heard people say it's like, or completely extreme. Like I've heard teachers be like, okay, for the next week, you have to say every single note that you play on guitar, which is completely unrealistic, but if anybody's crazy enough to do that, it works. It's like you play a C chord, okay, that's C, G, C, and E, and then you're like, okay, E minor 7 flat 5, and okay, let's E, and B flat, and D, and G. But that's not really realistic. This exercise, I think, is the best way to really hone in on these. And then once you have all these notes where you can pull them out of thin air like that, I need you to completely forget them, because you're never going to forget them. They'll always be in the back of your mind. But great guitar players think intervallically. And unless you're some perfect pitch, freak or something like that, most people, this is 1, that's 3, that's 5, that's 1, that's 2, that's 6, that's 5, that's 4, 3, 2, back to 1. And they're seeing intervallic relationships across the fretboard because this is a geometric instrument. It is, and it's not key specific if you think like that. In the human ear, the average human ear doesn't hear, oh, that's a C sharp. Whenever you're in the key of B and a C sharp is played, they're hearing that as a 2 or some kind of tension that wants to get pulled back to 1. They don't hear C sharp and B, which are this extra arbitrary step. They're hearing, the true distance between those notes. That's how the average listener, perceives music. They don't think in terms of notes. They're hearing space and intervals and things like that. So that's typically a better way to organize our thoughts on guitar. So the follow-up video to this might be kind of a deep dive on intervals and how to think about them across the fretboard. If you guys are into that kind of stuff, let me know. If you like this stuff, please like and subscribe, guys. And if you like this teaching style, please check out that course that's down in the description. It's called Nicky V's Fretboard Mechanics. And the feedback so far has been overwhelmingly incredibly positive, and I'm so glad because I had no idea how it was going to be perceived when I put it out there. It's a different teaching style. It's one-on-one like this. There's no tab, no crazy diagrams flashing up on the screen or anything like that, because this is how your favorite guitar players probably learned, is sitting across from somebody and talking and figuring out how to organize this fretboard to develop their own voice. And it really means a lot, you guys taking the time to watch this. Hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, I think I'll do a couple more lesson videos that are kind of geared towards this. I kind of like doing little series on here. And if nobody watches it, I might switch it up and throw some more session clips and things like that in there. But let me know down in the comments what you guys like. And if you have any questions, put them down there as well. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.